Hey, welcome back, guys. One of the few bright spots of this trying year has been HBO's new smash series, Lovecraft Country. Created by the gifted Misha and executive produced by Hollywood heavy hitters Jordan Peele and J.J. Abrams, Lovecraft is a compelling blend of race, sexuality, and mysticism. The story follows the journey of Atticus Freeman, who ventures home following a stint in the Korean War to locate his missing father, from whom he's received a letter. That journey only gets more complicated as Atticus unearths his true family history, lineage, and all threats in between. So gear up, because in today's video, we'll be breaking down the top 10 WTF moments from episode 1, entitled Sundown, and offer analysis on the many symbols hidden throughout. Before we begin, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and bell notification to immediately receive these videos. Also, I humbly ask that you all please don't post spoilers in the comments for those who just may be catching up on this epic series. I'll be analyzing it on an episode-by-episode basis to assist in that effort as well. With that being said, a spoiler alert is now in effect. Here we go. WTF moment number 10. It was all a dream. The series begins with a black and white opening image of Atticus, or Tick for short, fighting his way through a Korean war trench. As the battle continues, the black and white montage gradually changes to color, signaling to the audience that this is indeed a dream. From there, a voiceover plays, accurately placing our new narrative in perspective. This is the story of a boy and his dream. But more than that, it is the story of an American boy and a dream that is truly American. The narration in this sequence is derived from the 1950 film The Jackie Robinson Story, which makes sense given what happens in the moments to come. We witness a massive array of the supernatural in the wake of natural carnage, including spaceships, aliens, monsters, etc. These ethereal depictions tie the viewer into Atticus's mind, which is vast and full of stories due to his upbringing and penchant for pulp novels, something we learn more of as the series progresses. A red woman descends from one of the spaceships above, who we later learn to be Gia, Atticus's love interest during the war, who plays a pivotal role in his journey at large. The two embrace, but are interrupted by a large monstrous being. The monster menacingly approaches Tick and his muse, but is split in two by none other than Jackie Robinson via his baseball bat. Robinson's presence was alluded to given the aforementioned voiceover. He heroically poses with a flurry of red, white, and blue fireworks exploding in the background, acknowledging his status as an American trailblazer. Approaching Tick and the Red Woman, Jackie states, "I got you, kid," a quote that will resonate much deeper in episodes to come. The monster then reanimates behind Jackie, and as he prepares to take a final blow, Tick reawakens on his bus ride, heading to Chicago to fulfill the first aspect of his 10-episode destiny. I interpret the monster Jackie faces as American racism itself, something that has been fought and destroyed time and again over generations, only to return in more insidious forms, leading right up until today. The irony in Jackie's bout with that monster only elevates the scene's importance when you understand his story past his baseball glory, one rife with turmoil and anguish, ending in an early death at the age of 53. But that's another video for another day. WTF moment number 9, Secret Legacy. Atticus finally makes it home to Chicago and reunites with his Aunt Hippolyta, Cousin Dee, and Uncle George, his father figure and spiritual kin, given their shared love of fantastical stories. Tick shares the contents of his father's letter with his uncle, who's initially taken aback given his knowledge of Atticus's real relationship to him. The letter reveals that Tick's father has uncovered the truth behind his mother's forebears, and that he has a secret birthright that was hidden from him. That heritage being his bloodline with the Sons of Adam, a collective introduced in full during episode 2. He further continues that the place his father needs him to go is Lovecraft Country, i.e. Arden, Massachusetts. WTF moment number 8, You Shouldn't Have. Tick visits what's presumably his father's home, unknowingly followed by the same silver sedan Sammy mentioned earlier during his brief stop at the bar. He finds his father's original copy of The Count of Monte Cristo, mirroring his love for the same classic Dumas tale, and the audience is shown, among other things, visible cracks in the wall, cracks that Tick explains to his Uncle George when recalling a story about his last trip home and fight with his father. He later reminisces on his own copy of Cristo, his version holding an even greater significance due to the bond formed with his lover abroad, which is delved into further in episode 6. He dials that very lover while reminiscing, confirming subtly that he's returned home. She cryptically conveys that, quote, he shouldn't have, fully understanding his fate as a result of the trip. Another clue later uncovered in 106. WTF moment number 7, Journey Through Jim Crow. Tick, Letty, and Uncle George ventured through the Midwest, also known as Middle America, on their way to Artem. Throughout their travels, the audience is given a major history lesson to the backdrop of James Baldwin's debate with William F. Buckley Jr. in 1965. Baldwin's timeless words are accompanied by a montage of racist American institutions once, and some still, held dear, including segregated diners, Aunt Jemima imagery, and sundown towns. Now, sundown towns were places that existed throughout the country that Black people couldn't go to after dark. In fact, if caught in one of these provinces, a Black person could be severely beaten and subsequently killed with impunity. Many of these towns existed across all of America, but predominantly in the Midwest and South. Illinois has some of the most, with 475 of their total 671 towns being sundown in nature. One such town made reference to in the show was Anna, Illinois, and Anna stood for Ain't No Niggas Allowed. Sundown towns also have a kinship with what we know today as the suburbs. Most suburbs began life as sundown towns, according to James Loewen, author of the comprehensive book of the same name. Tick and the crew are additionally shown being antagonized by white locals during their travels. WTF moment number 6. We gotta get the out of here. Our crew briefly stops to reset and decide on a safe place to eat on their journey. They settle on a diner called Lydia's, which George claims to have a good feeling about. They move on to the fictional town of Simmonsville. Upon entering, we already get the feeling that it's more of the same, racially speaking. They're met with coldness and aversion at the diner, having to ask for general courtesies such as seating, menus, and specials. Letty briefly steps away to the ladies' room, where she overhears the waiter stating to someone that he wouldn't serve them after what was done to Miss Lydia. Tick and George uncover burn marks on the floor just as Letty rushes out screaming, "Get your ass up, we gotta get the out of here, now." It's implied that Lydia, whoever she was run out of town and her own business violently, and that the perpetrators covered their tracks by all-white remodeling, a discovery made by George's brief history of the White House's development. The crew subsequently outrun a white mob in a vigorous car chase scene, one of the best of the series thus far. WTF moment number 5, Lady in Red. During the aforementioned car chase, a shootout ensues between our group and the white terrorists. Tick and the crew are nearly cut off by a mysterious silver sedan, the same car mentioned by Sammy at the bar and seen trailing Tick during his visit to his father's place. The silver car wedges itself between our heroes and villains and chooses the former by abruptly stopping, causing the mob to violently flip and catapult to their deaths. The unexpected savior then reveals herself, a beautiful woman dressed in an all-black coat and a red hat and gloves. We know this woman to be Christina Braithwaite, and she's a central figure in this epic with a major stake in our character's survival, particularly Tick. But we'll uncover more about her character in the breakdowns to come. WTF moment number 4, 7 minutes of separation. Our crew finally makes it to Devon County, but are sidetracked by its lack of identifiable bridges and roads. During a brief stop to refocus their efforts, they're approached by a police officer. The menacing lawman informs them that they're not just in a sundown town, but a sundown county, and threatens their lives in a game of cat and mouse following an attempt at humiliating Atticus. He allows them a chance at escape, with the sun being 7 minutes away from officially setting. A tense car chase follows, though slower and more strained than the previous one due to the threat posed by the cop if our heroes try to speed. The cop antagonizes them too, hitting their bumper to evoke fear and make them give him a reason to implement deadly force. But alas, our heroes escape. However, they're immediately met by more of the same as 4 cops meet them at the county line, guns drawn. WTF moment number 3, Night of the Living Shogoffs. The county terrorists escort our heroes through the now dark forest and force them to lie face first in the dirt. They question them about a series of burglaries as another form of racialized fear and intimidation. Cocking their weapons in a final scare before the potential massacre, the quartet is stalled by weird, seemingly wild animal noises throughout the eerie forest. Shaken and aiming their weapons for the pending threat, the cops are picked off one by monsters known as Shogoffs. Shogoffs are blob-like beings that were originally created by H.P. Lovecraft. Tick made an offhand reference to them at their last stop prior to being antagonized by the race soldiers. The terrifying monsters brutally dismembered the cops one by one, much to the delight of the audience and chagrin of everyone else. WTF moment number 2, you need to shoot him. Tick's group and the few surviving cops hold up in a nearby cabin. Upon captivity, they notice that one of the cops was indeed bitten by the Shogoff, causing an adverse reaction in the lawman. As he began metamorphosing into the monstrous beast, George hilariously states, "You need to shoot him." The irony in this debacle is that cops in Devon County were indeed viewed as monsters to every traveler found on the wrong end of the racial spectrum. Blacks were killed if caught after dark in every Sundown region. However, in this instance, they were terrorized by monsters in the dead of night, finding themselves in their territory after dark. Whites were killed and turned into the monsters they actually were exhibiting themselves as through their behavior. Enemies of the light in contrast to the darkness. This is poetry at its finest, and an excellent depiction of dramatic irony by Misha and the crew. And WTF moment number 1, welcome home. Letty makes a run for the car and saves the day just as the Shogoff cop was ready to strike, bursting through the cabin and shining a light on the being, something they previously figured out could harm them. The crew becomes surrounded by Shogoffs in the episode's climax, but a mysterious whistle beckons the monsters away, leaving our heroes a chance to finish their long journey. The team finally come upon Artem and see the silver sedan in a mansion's driveway. A mysterious, well-dressed white man answers the door and coyly states, "We've been expecting you, Mr. Freeman. Welcome home." We'll get into this man's origin and intentions for our heroes as this recap series progresses. A few lingering thoughts before we end today's first entry. The name Atticus derives from the Greek term Attikos, meaning from Attica, the ancient Greek region that contained Athens. Athens is the capital city of Greece and served as the backdrop for various myths and legends for ancient Greeks. This understanding provides context for Tick's affinity for pulp stories or legends, narratives rooted in heroes traveling to other worlds, defying insurmountable odds, defeating the monster, and ultimately saving the day. Atticus is seen holding a copy of The Outsider and the Others by H.P. Lovecraft. The book was a collection of short stories riddled with fantasy, horror, and science fiction, and the series at large plays out according to these parameters, adding the historical elements in for good measure. H.P. Lovecraft himself was a major racist who held contempt for blacks and sympathized with the rising Adolf Hitler, once stating, quote, "I know he's a clown, but God, I like the boy," following Hitler's ascension to Chancellor of Germany. In regards to the former, he wrote an inflammatory poem entitled On the Creation of Niggers, where he stated, quote, "When long ago the gods created earth, in Jove's fair image, man was shaped at birth. The beats for lesser parts were next designed, yet they were too remote from humankind. To fill the gap and join the rest to man, the Olympian host conceived a clever plan. A beast they wrought in semi-human figure, filled it with vice, and called the thing a nigger." These racially charged elements are inescapable, and the Lovecraft Collective seem to relish in attacking it head-on. As in the opening scene, during Atticus's exchange with the elderly woman on the road, reconciling the nature of the narratives, Tick conveys, quote, "Stories are like people. Loving them doesn't make them perfect. You just try to cherish them, overlook their flaws." She reminded him that indeed, the flaws are still there, to which he retorted, "Yeah, they are." This layered interaction speaks to the nature of art versus artist and the latitudes of acceptance versus denial. It also subtly addresses the phenomenon of present-day cancel culture, believe it or not, where we see artists lambasted almost daily over their transgressions and misgivings, as opposed to their work simply being taken on face value, independently of their creators. The bar Atticus frequents is named after slain freedom fighter Denmark Vesey, who organized one of the largest slave rebellions that unfortunately would never take place, resulting in his death and that of his co-conspirators on July 2nd, 1822. Mention of him here coincides with the theme of legends and heroes, as Vesey is often recalled under these specifications and makes sense considering Tick's own personal struggles towards freedom in 1950s America. Vesey's efforts sent shockwaves of fear throughout the United States and inspired future historical heavy hitters such as Frederick Douglass. You can learn more about his life and mission in author David Roberson's excellent piece, Denmark Vesey, The Buried History of America's Largest Slave Rebellion and the Man Who Led It. Finally, we get a nod to the Negro Motorist Green Book through George's Safe Negro Guide to Travel. The book consisted of a list of restaurants, lodges, and routes that Black people could safely utilize sans white interference. Thank you for watching today's video. What were your thoughts on Lovecraft's pilot episode? Be sure to leave me your opinions in the comments below. If you liked today's video, drop $1 on that Cash App for us, hit the like button, share it with your friends who are Lovecraft fans, and subscribe for more content such as this. This is Rudy P. Magic of Rudy P. Magic Beats, and have a blessed one until the next one. Peace, y'all.